Hey there! Today I want to show you how to make a multiplayer game with Photon. We will use this little scene with a spaceship where you are the player on the ground and the opponent is the one on the top. So first things first. Go to the Photon page, create an account, and you will land on a dashboard. Here you can create a new app. For Unity we will use the Photon pun. Then we give the app a name, the description and the URL you can leave empty. When you hit create, you will land back on the dashboard. You can copy your app ID here, because we need this later. You can also analyze and manage your app here. When you hit manage, you can add different things. For example, add properties, add a new authentication service, or choose a whitelist for your region. But for now, we leave everything as it is, and go to the SDK. Here we choose pun and the Unity package. Now you can click on Get Pun Free and this will bring you to the Unity Asset Store. Here you can add the pun to free to your game assets. After you imported the asset, the pun wizard will show up. Here you just enter your app ID and set up project. This will generate this Photon server settings asset. Here we find our app ID again. We have to give our app a version and leave everything else as it is. Photon already found a perfect region for me. It's the EU server with a ping of 25 milliseconds, but this one is just for debugging. You will find this asset in your asset folder here or under Window, Photon, Highlight Server Settings. There is also the wizard if it not shows up at the start. So let's talk about the scene. Here we have a network text that shows the current state of the connection. We also have a ping text which shows the current ping. And we have the MultiplayerManager. This one has different variables, 2 for our texts and 2 prefabs. Please notice that these prefabs has to be located in the resources folder. So, time for some code. We start with the MultiplayerManager and especially the awake method in it. Here we first set the connection text to connecting and then instantiate our own class ConnectionHelper and tell this one to connect. After that, we can start our coroutine to update the ping. There are some more methods, but I will show you them later. Let's switch to the ConnectionHelper. This one inherits from the monobehavior pun callbacks. We also have the using photo.pun. The first important method is connect. Here we first set automatically sync scene to true and connect to the Photon network using the method connect using settings. After that, we have our first callback method. This one overrides the one from the base class. Here we can set the connection string to we are connected. And because we are connected, we can now join a random room. So if we join the room, we have another callback method, onJoinedRoom. Here we just tell our MultiplayerManager we joined the room. I will show you later what happens there. So what happens if we cannot join a room? Then the callback method onJoinRandom failed is called. Here we assume that no room is open. So we have to create one. We set the max players to 2, the visibility to true and the open status to true. Then we can create a new room with a new GUID from the system. This will be our room name. And we pass in our room parameters. When the room is created, there is another callback method, onCreatedRoom. Here we can tell our MultiplayerManager that we are the host. And we set a connection text to new room created. Now the last callback method, onPlayerEnteredRoom. Here we can simply disable the text because we are just a 2-player room. And because everyone loves statistics and numbers, here we create a new method, getPing, and we simply return the ping from the Photon network. So, back on the MultiplayerManager. Here we have the method roomJoined, which is called from the ConnectionHelper. Here we first check if we are the host, and if so, we spawn the player and set the connection text to waiting for player. If not, we spawn an enemy player and rotate our camera by 180 degrees. To spawn an object over the network, we don't use the normal instantiate method. We use the photonetwork.instantiate and pass in the name of our prefab. And that's why it's important that the prefabs are in the resource folder, because Photon will search for a prefab with the name there. Everything else is as you know it. You pass in the position and the start rotation. So let's talk about the prefab. Here on the first element we have the player manager and a Photon view. The Photon view allows us to instantiate this object. The second object in the hierarchy is our body of the spaceship. All other objects are child of this body. So this body is the moving object. It has the rigid body and a box collider. And down here, a Photon transform view. Here we tell Photon to synchronize the position and rotation of this object and all child objects. Now to the player manager. If a Photon view is attached to the game object, you can always check if this is your game object or if it is spawned over the network. You can do this with photonview.isMine. If you want to synchronize other variables with the network, you have to implement the IPAN observable interface. This one has a method onPhotonSerializedView. And again, we have to check if this is our object or the network one with stream.isWriting. If so, we can send the current health, and if not, we receive the current health from the network. We can also call methods on the network objects. For this, you write the method as normal and give it the attribute punRPC. And then, for example, if you fire a shot, you can call photonview.rpc and give it the method it has to call, and give it the target objects. In this one, all other objects except this one. So I think that's all you need to know to start with multiplayer gaming. Let's test this one with the Unity editor and a phone. So here you can see everything is synchronized. Tell us in the comments what's your current multiplayer project and what else you want to know about networking. So, I hope you learned something new today. Subscribe to watch more tutorials and I'm sure I'll see you in the next.